50 years ago, there were 3 broadcast networks. It was sort of like going to a general store and back in the turn of the century and getting flour, sugar, or barley. Today, you walk into a grocery store, there are 500,000 SKUs. You're overwhelmed with packaged goods. Today in media, that's exactly what media is like. There are no 3 broadcast networks. There are 200 linear channels and counting, and there are hundreds of thousands of web properties that have both text and video content on them for you to consume. It is like going into a supermarket. The idea of creating vertical brands that have a real clarity about how it's positioned, how it's segmented, what it means, how it's marketed, I think has never been more important. When you think about consumer adoption to how they watch television, it's very generational. So if you're a millennial and you're in your 20s and you're not married and you don't have kids, and you grew up in sort of the digital age, you're going to watch TV as unbundled and YouTube and watch so many different types of platforms. If you're in your mid-30s, 40s, or older, you want to watch a portfolio of many channels because the entire household, while you may be only watching 12, 13 channels, there are other people in the household that might be watching 12 or 13 different channels. So as a household, you may be watching 50 channels. I could make a very powerful argument that larger households having bundled content is actually an efficient way of being able to consume a lot of diverse content for people at different life stages and different interests. I think if you're a single person, the idea of watching unbundled content is very elegant. The question is, how are media companies going to monetize that? And in terms of the education of these folks, I think you're going to see mini bundles. I think you're going to have bundles that are going to be sort of what they are sometimes called skinny bundles. The great news is because of the lack of barrier to entry through YouTube and other sort of digital video services, if there's a real hole in the market through either a demographic group or a social group, that service will formulate through a digital IP solution, through a YouTube type of service or through an Amazon Prime. So I'm confident that there's so many ways to get great new content to consumers that you don't have to necessarily go through a Comcast, and then I think if the large content companies aren't coming up with more diverse content, there'll be sort of emerging content companies that will fill that void and create niche opportunities. So I'm confident that the capitalist economic system will take hold should there be opportunities that are not being exploited by the larger companies.